Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
No nostalgia, just pure wacky fun. That's how I define my time with Mischief Makers for the N64. Hello there, I'm Michael Berger, fellow podcaster, video game collector, and author. I co-host Bits of Time with my older brother, where we ask the simple question, is a certain video game worth your time? To get a feel for how we do things over there, I recommend listening to Halo Infinite. That episode had a lot of insane takes on my end. Or listen to our debate series, which is called Three Crowns. The one on future remakes was a lot of fun, where we had to narrow down which one would be the best revival at this point in time. We also have a YouTube channel of the same name, and the content is about 95% different than our podcast episodes. It's mainly focused on RPGs and Nintendo videos, so please, if you can, go check that out. We just made it past 2,700 subscribers, and I'm proud of the work we're doing over there. Highly recommend checking out my latest retrospective on Breath of Fire 4. That was a lot of fun to make. But that's enough about me. Let's cause some mischief, N64 style. 1997 was a big year for games, and Enix and Nintendo decided to publish and release this exclusive N64 game called Mischief Makers. One, that is a crazy cool title, and Enix publishing this as well, kind of strange. Now, I do have a memory of seeing this in a video game magazine at one point, but I never ended up purchasing when I was a kid or renting it growing up. I did end up picking this game up when I started collecting for the N64 back in, I'd say, 2010 or so. I finally got around to playing it in 2019, which feels so long ago. And what made me want to play this game is because I just finished playing Mystical Ninja starring Goemon for the N64, and I wanted to try something similarly wacky, eccentric, kind of out of the ordinary experience. Because I love that experience with Mystical Ninja, I feel like I could find something else on the N64, and I landed on Mischief Makers. And boy, I'm happy I did. It's a stage-based 2D side-scrolling platformer that is one of the few games that actually utilizes the D-pad on the N64, so just for a bit of nostalgia, you have to try it for that reason. There are plenty of levels and different worlds to make it through, all while trying to find some pesky hidden golden gems if you want to get a secret ending, which is always fun when they add that. Each world has a little weird intro movie to it where someone from the evil empire kidnaps our Professor Theo, an old genius robot builder. Just think of Master Roshi from Dragon Ball Z, and you kind of get his image and his personality. This Professor Theo came to this new planet and happens to be our protagonist's master. And he happens to be kidnapped in ridiculous manners, and sometimes he's just not so bright. The person we control is our protagonist, Marina. And the manual says her full name is Marina Lightyears, of course. Our Ultra Intergalactic Cybot G, which that is a mouthful, but they have a cool design. There's this white coat with these blue orbs on her gloves, and her legs are red and a shock of green hair, and of course, giant anime-looking eyes. The manual to this game also speaks for the odd charm of it. For instance, you have under controls, Marina is just saying, if you see something suspicious, grab it with the B button. It's just got a nice flavor to it. And that is what you'll be doing in this game. You'll be grabbing enemies, shaking them, and throwing them, and we'll get to that in just a moment. When I was deciding to play this game, I remember the main thing reading were the bad controls, or perhaps the oddity of the controls. I find the controls to be pretty intuitive with the design of the controller, using the D-pad and the C buttons to move around. Double tapping the left or right direction button gives you a boost, while tapping the corresponding C buttons does as well. And there will be plenty of platforming where some of it can get pretty difficult, jumping from these crazy-looking faced blocks and balls that they're really hard to describe. Think of a light socket, but a spherical or block shaped with glowing eyes, and you kind of get the oddity strewn throughout this entire game. And when you're dashing or jumping from all these platforms, what I do like about this game is when you do fail and you fall into a pit, you only lose a sliver of your health bar. And I think that's a nice compromise for this game. It may get pretty difficult later in the game. It's only difficult early in the game just learning the controls, which do take a bit to get used to, but knowing that there's plenty of room for error with such a small hit to your health bar each time makes the game achievable to finish. I would say another departure from most platformers, we do have those opening cutscenes where people talk and you're scrolling through text. There's some light voice acting, but you also get to talk to some of the townsfolk along the way. Now, this isn't going to make the story be, wow, are you going to care for these NPCs a bunch? Maybe there'll be some you will, but it's a nice inclusion. So yes, you are shaking the enemy. So that means you are grabbing them with that B button, as Marina told us in the manual, and you're pressing the down C button to shake them, and little items will pop out of them, and then you can also then grab them and throw them. And this is a lot of fun because what the enemy was doing is how they will be thrown. For instance, a jetpack enemy, when you throw them, will zip across the screen and explode. And then there's the opposite. If an enemy is throwing a sharp pointed star at you, grab them and they may drop that item and you can throw it at their friends. And yes, you can shake that enemy that was holding a machine gun and you can, shoot that gun. There's little pots strewn around the levels too where you can combine items to grab weapons. Also, you collect the gems to then upgrade your health bar up to 2 times, which gives you extra padding for all those times those enemies are going to kill you or you're going to fall off the level. My favorite thing about the game is the sheer variety of levels and how quickly you can get in and out of them. There's almost never just your typical platforming level. There are those baked in there, but there's usually a twist to them too. For example, the first level you get to in the desert area, where you shake a friendly villager and he turns into this giant multi-blocked mech. But of course it's made up of all those strange faces you've been seeing everywhere. You stand on its head and control its movement and plow through your enemies. It took me 1 minute and 24 seconds to beat that level. It keeps track of your individual times you've beat it in and replaces it. It's kind of like time trials. Or you have a level where you're just free falling down this deep hole and having to navigate to warp points to get to the end. It keeps warping you back towards the top and you drop further and you have to angle around these obstacles. It reminds me a little bit of the Mario formula in that regard, where some levels will be just really quick and others you'll stay a little bit longer into, and I like that. Another perk to this design philosophy is that if a level is boring or annoying you, well, you're probably going to be finished with it real soon. There are some longer ones, don't worry. One of them took me 7 minutes the first time, and I cut that down to just under 4.5 minutes. When I say long, I guess it's not really long, but you get the idea. Another thing I do like about this game, especially on the N64, there can be quite a bit of enemies on the screen at once, with explosions in the background, and it still runs smooth. So even when you're quickly dashing and shaking enemies, you're not going to get messed up with some serious slowdown like a lot of N64 titles. And speaking of enemies, the boss crew that you'll be fighting are quite the characters too. And you'll see their faces at the end of each level in this mosaic of character portraits. Kind of reminds me of Mega Man a little bit right there, but it's a nice touch that makes this game stand out. I think my favorite is Mirko, who's this standing up bird creature with a flying suit of armor and a golden jousting spear. His boss fight was a cool departure from the others, where the perspective of it is switched up a bit. He's shooting missiles at the screen from the background straight at you, the player, and you have to dodge them flying in the air, and then of course you grab those missiles and chuck them back at him. And there are some mid-bosses along the way before we get to these bigger boss fights, so it's just got this nice mix and flow of things you'll be doing from level to level. And as you're making your way through this game, just look at the background and the foreground and just how weird. I swear it's like the textures are almost fighting with the background images at times. It's really hard to describe, but because the terrain is so alien and jarring in a good way, and the background will scroll with you as you move the player around, and sometimes they almost look pre-rendered backgrounds, but I'm honestly not even sure if they are in certain levels. For example, there's one with a giant mountain in the background that somehow looks like it's on a different plane than the immediate background, and the sky also looks like it's behind it with the clouds. It's odd, but just know even the simplicity of some backgrounds can be a fun distraction as you make your way through the levels. And it won't take you a lot of time to get to those ending credits. It took me 4 hours and 48 minutes to make it to the end, but I didn't collect even half of the golden gems. Some of them are very obscure and hard to find. So it can definitely take up more of your time if you want it to. Is it the best platformer on the N64? Absolutely not. Nor is it the most creative, but it does have such an eccentric charm that if you have that itch for the weird, a bit more obscure taste, Mischief Makers might be a game worth your time. So check it out, and happy gaming.
Do you find yourself playing older games and wishing that there were new discussions about those games? Enter Tales from the Backlog. Hi, I'm Dave Jackson, and on each episode, I'm joined by a guest to break down those games that may be stuck in your ever-expanding backlog. Each episode looks at one game in depth, focusing on mechanics, story, music, and other aspects with no spoilers until a clearly marked spoiler wall in the middle. If you've played the game, go ahead and climb that spoiler wall and enjoy in-depth story discussions, and if not, jump out when we warn you and maybe go play that game for yourself. We have over 100 episodes in the feed, everything from Disco Elysium to Tunic to discussion episodes about how to get into horror games, and if games actually need to be fun, or if they have more to offer. I guarantee that there's something in there for everybody. Once again, that's Tales from the Backlog, available wherever your podcasts are found.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.